I can hear the demons call when they do what they do. And now I feel like taking off, find a place with a view. The pain is never gonna stop if it's controlling you. I know that time can heal it all, I just gotta get through. I just gotta get through, I just gotta get through. Cause I feel like taking off, find a place with a view. The pain is never gonna stop if it's controlling you. I know that time can heal it all, I just gotta get through. Sometimes I feel like all is lost, but I know it's not true. I wanna put up all my walls cause I'm not in the mood, but then I cut myself off from the rest of the room. I know that time can heal it all if you're patient and soon it can all be worth it, all the searching. Pain is never really permanent, but damn it hurts, man. I could feel all of the turbulence and it's concerning. I've been searching for a purpose, I hope it's worth it. This society is really trying me. Ain't no hide and seek, I hide to be far from anxiety. I need my space, I need my privacy. I need some silence, please, you're all too loud. You don't speak quietly, opinions violently thrown across every surface. It makes me nervous, is the world honestly burning? That's all I'm learning. Hope that we can make a turn and start reversing all our minds and put the work in. We got some work, man. I can hear the demons call when they do what they do. And now I feel like taking off, find a place with a view. The pain is never gonna stop if it's controlling you. I know that time can heal it all, I just gotta get through. I just gotta get through, I just gotta get through. Cause I feel like taking off, find a place with a view. The pain is never gonna stop if it's controlling you. I know that time can heal it all, I just gotta get through. I just gotta get through. Gotta get through this, life is a nuisance, tie up some loose ends. I try to be human, find a solution, my evolution. A place like this, it didn't exist, we made it like this. So you can go pick the bad or the good, got a glass half rich. I know, it's easier to hide than just to lay low. Not everyone in life has got a halo. I'm standing in the red inside a payphone, just wanna break, no. I'm not gonna give in, take a last shot, Michael J. Win. No, I'm not a robot, I'm in my own skin. Never get lost when thoughts pull you in. I miss the old you, we died with a purpose. All the energy around me felt nervous, scared I would pop out fast to the surface. Had to cut it off before you made me worthless. Torn apart, I've been torn and scarred. I had a given art, but now I'm thinking smart. I'm keeping up my guard, I'm hiding every card. A royal flush of bluff, you never know what's hard. With a back to the mat, gonna see where I'm at. I'ma fight like a...
another industry talk. I am here with Jerrod Guillory, comedian, all around funny guy, knucklehead. He'll take them all compliments and non compliments because he enjoys all of them. Does cares and doesn't care at the same time about people's opinions. We got a lot of fun things to talk about today. We're going to talk a lot about confidence, his journey of being a comedian, some of the things that he had to overcome that relates to you out there who are in the entertainment field or aspire to be in the entertainment field. So without further ado, this is the part where I stop yammering and I let the guests introduce themselves. Go ahead, Mr. Guillory.
Hi, as he said, my name is Jerrod Guillory. I am a comedian in Southwest Louisiana, having a lot of fun. And like he said, I'm here to tell you about some of the good things, the bad things, the fun things, the scary things, and anything else you want to know about.
It's funny, and I have you on here because I always say, an actor, it can be intimidating. They're learning how to act. They go to an audition. They might book the job, and then they're on set, and that can be nerve wracking. But still, they're filming and not in front of an audience, right? And usually, when you're at a theater, people don't boo when you're doing a play, right? But a comedian has that distinct job of being in front of a crowd and could have the nervousness, especially when you're starting out, of bombing. And then a lot of your act has to do with that emotional connection with the crowd, right?
Exactly. And I am never gonna dismiss the difficulty of other professions.
Mhm.
And I know most of your students and most of the people you associate with are actors. I can't imagine being an actor because I can't let you tell me what to say. I can't say what you want me to say. I can only say what comes from me. Now, the difficult, so I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying it's easier one way or the other.
Yeah.
But as a comedian, yes, all you have is yourself, all you have is your stories, and all you have is your ability to keep everyone's attention. It's always, oh, everything's got to be side slit and funny. Well, my show is average 90 minutes.
Mhm.
So I can't make you laugh for a solid 90 minutes. There are going to be some lows. So when it's a low, I have to at least keep your attention. Now, that low can't be for more than a few seconds. So, yes, being a comedian, you have to be able to control the room. The guy that keeps getting up to go pee, or the guy that wants to talk to the girl sitting next to him because he's on a date. You have to you have to take control of that situation, and you got to do it one or two ways. You got to do it in a way he does not notice you're doing it, or you got to slam him, and
Mhm.
that decision is yours. And you have to deal with whatever decision you make. You have to stick with it and make it happen. Because if you allow someone else to take your audience attention, you're done.
Well, I mean, that could still be relative to be because we talk about it in acting and modeling. If you're not keeping the audience's attention, whether they're watching you live or watching something that's already been recorded, it's still the same effect. You didn't keep their attention, right? I think
Exactly.
that's why some of the best comedians, like a Dave Chappelle or Richard Pryor, they're good storytellers. So yeah,
Mhm.
you're cracking the jokes, but then if I'm telling an interesting enough story, it keeps you interested until I get to
Exactly.
the punchlines, right?
Exactly. And again, a 90-minute set,
Mhm.
I'm not telling you 90 minutes worth of jokes or 90
Uh-huh.
minutes worth of stories. I'm basically telling you a bunch of stories that is one big story. Like if I can tell you something at the end of the set and don't remind you of it, and I told the first part at the beginning of the set and I ended at the end of the set, I'll refer back to it, and you laughed and you paid attention through the whole show.
What made you want to be a comedian?
It's natural. When I was like 18, 19 years old, because I'm a very thin and little guy, I was asked to be a bouncer in a nightclub in New Iberia who
Mhm.
had a comedian that would come in once a week. And he and I got to be friends. His name was John Morgan. And we were clowning one day, and he's like, dude, you ought to do this. You're hilarious. And you have to understand there's two funnies. There's the guy who's funny with his friends, and then there's a guy who's funny with everybody.
Mm.
So I did it, was great the first time, bombed the second time. Second time ever on stage, bombed horrifically. So he convinced me to try one more time. With the advice is when you tell a story, try to make everybody feel like they were there. And I learned that. And then third time went fine, and it just got better and better. And then we started touring together, and then I started doing it by myself.
The part where you say tell a story and make sure everybody feel that it was there. Again, that's why I love this stuff because everything in entertainment kind of intersects, right?
Mm-hmm.
I always use this example. You remember the first Terminator movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you remember the Predator's chasing Arnold. He falls down into water. He climbs to the mud. He gets covered in mud, and then the Predator's standing over him, and Arnold says out loud, "He can't see me." Now we know in real life, if a monster's standing above you, you won't say anything. So it's like, why is he saying that? Well, there's somebody in the audience who's going to be like, why isn't he killing him? So you've got to include everybody.
Yes, you have to include everybody, and you have to do it in a way. And it's cool. You have to do it in a way to include the slow guy,
Mm-hmm.
but not aggravate the people who are ahead knowing it.
That
So
get
you
it.
have to
Right.
give details, but not bore people with details, and you have to knock it out real quick. Like one of my stories where I talk about the characters going to New Orleans, and I know you heard the story before,
Mm-hmm.
and I have to use the term peton. Well, in South Louisiana, we know what peton means.
Mm-hmm.
It's a slang word for penis. So in that story, I have to make sure the guy who never heard it before, the guy who doesn't know Louisiana culture, knows what it is. So when I later use the line as a punchline for him to get
Then,
it.
then they know what you mean.
So
Let-
in the story, where my grandmother's talking about it, she says it, and when Chet replies, he says the real word. So when she said, "Oh, that's not a peton," he says,
Oh, then he says the word that, yeah, yeah.
"That's a penis," and I'm like, "Yeah, it's a peton." So
Yeah.
that later you've associated penis with peton.
All right. Perform. So when when you went up that first time, even before your bombing, explain to me like the nervousness, anxiety that comes with that because you had never performed before, so you probably didn't know what performance anxiety or any of those things were.
I got drunk.
Well, that's the way around it. We're not prescribing for you all to go out there and drink and do your craft, but that's how you got through the first one.
As I performed, I had to get less drunk. So I guess in a way I developed.
I always fear I'm going to get canceled when I do a interview with you.
Do, do you? I'm sorry,
So,
John. Let me repeat that. This is for the cheap seats. I developed the talent to ignore groups and just talk to two or three people in the audience. One on this side, one on that side, one in the back, and one in the front. That way I would show my attention to everybody in the room, and it caused me not to be nervous because I'm only talking to four people. Does that work better for you?
yes, that works better for me. Even
I
though
got drunk.
that, but
But honestly, the little trick that I said about finding a person
mhm,
on each side of the room, I
mhm.
know that sounds silly, and I'm doing it for a cheap laugh, but honestly, that works. If you feel that talking to a very large number of people bothers you, pick a person, and usually you want to find somebody that you find attractive, or somebody that looks warm, and or somebody that's obviously paying attention, somebody that you feel somewhat comfortable with. Hell, if you can even plant people, plant them. Talk to a person on your left side, on your right side, in the back, and in the front row. And if you talk to those four people, and talk to all four of them at the same time, where you look at each one of them, you'll make the entire audience feel like they're part of the conversation because you're looking at these, you're looking at those, you're looking at the ones in the back, you're looking at the ones in the front, and just try to hold four corners of the room.
Gotcha. Awesome. Those of you who are watching, feel free to ask questions uh, as so you desire, so Jerry can answer them about anything. It's not just about being a comedian; it's just about performing as well. So, what were your first struggles like? Now, you mentioned the one where you bombed, but then there's some other things that might. Is there anything that kind of in the beginning deterred you from saying, you know what, this might not be the journey for me? and almost had you stop, whether that was finances, family, but then you persevered and pushed through it?
Most of everything that would want to make me stop, it's lack of. In other words,
Mhm.
if I could have a show every night and make money every night, this is all I'd ever want to do, and I would go forever. It's the not getting the bookings, not working regular, not making the money you need to make to do it. The offstage struggles of wanting to be on stage is my biggest holdbacks, my biggest issues. On stage, everything is perfect.
How do you keep your direction and push through that? Is it because of the passion that you have for being a comedian, or is there or something else?
It's just the want to do it. I mean, it's where I want to be.
The no excuses attitude. Well, this is what I want to do. I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Now, but pre COVID, you were catching fire a little bit because I remember you had a Netflix special that you're working on. I believe you had written a book already that was published. Tell everybody about that book, and is there any continuation with having a Netflix special, or is that just
That's all on hold. COVID killed everything. And unfortunately, in my area and where I was strongest, the casinos and theaters are the last one to get back. The casinos found out that they didn't have to do as much live entertainment to keep people in. They could, they could put up $5,000 insured on some type of winning thing, where you come and win money and get more people to come through the door for a chance to win money or a fifth of Crown Raw than having live entertainment and paying an entertainer to come to bring people in. Um, it is starting to go back to the way it was in some ways, but it's very slow going.
okay?
So yeah, everything prior to COVID's been put on hold.
So,
So that goes back to the have a plan B.
Plan B. Yep.
Yeah.
What I want to talk about, because this has to do again with confidence and building that confidence. You being primarily from Louisiana, having a Creole accent and having jokes that go over well in that region. How was it when you had to branch out and go on the road to the Northeast and the Northwest and other parts of the South?
When I first did it, fortunately, I did it when I was very young.
Hmm.
Yeah, the first couple shows did not transfer well, so I had to learn quickly again how to tell a story and make everyone feel like they're part of it. I have to know that if I'm telling a story about South Louisiana and I'm going to use South Louisiana slangs, I have to figure out a way for the guy in North Dakota to understand what I'm talking about. I have a very heavy accent. John kiss every corner, but I do have an accent. So honestly, when I'm on stage, and even now, I have to force myself to speak a little slower,
Hmm.
and I have to tell kind of stories that have punchlines that you can see coming a mile away.
Hmm.
And if I do enough of those, I can kind of teach the audience to understand what I'm saying.
Have you done any work overseas?
Yeah, been to London a couple times.
Now that's a whole different ball game, right?
They have no clue what I'm talking about.
So how?
Matter of fact, oh, you clowning. Matter of fact, the people that own Creole magazine offered me to kind of go into business with them
Hmm.
by setting a Creole culture up and buying a house in Louisiana.
Hmm.
And she kept telling me to look for houses for her, and I didn't understand what I was looking for a house for. We spoke a few times about being in the business together, and I didn't realize that's what we were doing.
Oh wow,
Yeah, because it's that much of a translation issue.
yeah.
Hmm.
So going over when you get the book the job to go and you know you're going to go perform in London, you already know that's a different type of crowd. Did you talk to anybody that had already previously done sets in London? Did you do what type of
No,
research did you
the
do?
biggest thing I needed to do was talk to the people that I was involved with on what not to say to offend people. If I'm not offending you, I can get through the rest of it.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So that is a big part. Well, especially I know we want to say especially today. So going into different areas, different cultures, that's one of the most important things. Like if you had to go and do, because I've seen where Gabriel Iglesias, I think his name is Fluffy. He's done shows in the Middle East, or he's gone to India or China, and so that's an important thing of ask. What do I not say? Not
What
simply
do you
what can I
what
say.
do
What do I not say?
what do you not say is the most important thing. But now let's be realistic, and we'll use Fluffy Gabriel Iglesias as you brought up. 90% probably or a higher number, even though they're in other countries, already know who they're going to see.
Hmm.
So they've heard enough of it. They understand. They know him more than he knows them.
Right.
So it is more comfortable. Where something overseas or being put in an odd element is if you're that not the headliner guy, the
Undercard. You know
the one.
the
Hey, we're going to a banquet for um, the London Art Museum, and by the way, there's going to be a comedian there from the United States, where you have no idea who that person is. That's the harder show than for somebody like Fluffy or Dave Chappelle. Because even if Dave Chappelle's in Ethiopia, the
Mhm.
people sitting in the office, ooh, Dave Chappelle. So they're gonna take him as that. Be the surprise guy.
Okay, I could see that when people don't know who you are because they don't know your comedy. They don't know if you're dark humor, if you're an insult comic, if
Mhm.
you just tell funny, stupid, corny dad jokes, or
Mhm.
what that goes. Hey, speaking of that, you're a funny guy. I know you're a funny guy. The title of the episode. Your friends think you're funny. Your fans think you're funny, but it always comes back to do your children think you're funny?
Believe it or not, yes. That actually, I'm blessed because I have three daughters.
Hmm.
And now, don't get me wrong, I can go over the line with them where my funny becomes stupid. But yes, believe it or not, my kids do think I'm funny. They go to shows and they actually sit there and laugh. And they show their friends videos of me. So yeah,
That's pretty
I'm
funny.
lucky.
How much practice goes into a routine? Like I remember you said like 90. Now you've gone from being a comedian who has to be on stage for 2 minutes, for 5 minutes, for 10, for 15, and now you're up into that level where you're getting a 90-minute special because I've seen a couple of yours. How does that preparation for that routine go?
That's going to be a unique thing for anybody. Sometimes, some people may need to sit down and write and then just read it and read it and write it and talk and stand in front of a mirror forever. My preparation is a little bit different and it's unique to me. When I write a story, whether it's true, and I usually try to write things with some truth in them, but when I write a story and decide to tell it, I convince myself it's true. And I'm just telling a story, just like if I sat there and told a story the first time I met one of my friends. So I lie to myself.
You lie to yourself.
So yeah, there's some standing in front of the mirror, but it's mostly just committing it to the truth.
I have a question from Malcolm. It says, how do you remotivate yourself after long layoffs? Because you talked about being off from COVID and I believe that was about 2 or 3 years. How do you remotivate yourself to get back where you left off if you've lost something?
It's difficult, but it's again where I want to be. So you gotta start over. The gigs I wouldn't take because I had moved past them, I have to start taking again. And you just start like you did when you started.
She's like you're hitting that reset button.
Yep, that's basically all you're doing.
Have you ever been heckled? That question comes from Tiffany. Have you ever been heckled?
Yes, of course I have. But Tiffany, it's not being heckled comes off more for the performer you are than the heckler. And let me explain so. I'm 6'1", 295 pounds. And I'm not a real soft guy from appearance. I don't speak softly. and I don't look very nice. So people do refrain from telling me things. So I'm lucky on my appearance. Very few people heckle me. And the ones who have, I've shut them down very quickly. In other words, people pay to see me. I'm not going to give you my attention. So I will quickly tell you, shut up and not linger around. Shut up and move on. That way, the heckler becomes uncomfortable talking to me because I don't look like somebody. I'm not the guy you're going to see at the airport and walk up to and start talking to.
Yeah. Speaking of which, you did a very good episode about an issue that you had in the airport that I won't get into. Uh,
They
but
need
you
to change the sign on that bathroom.
so that's how you deal with it because we've all seen like YouTube videos of comedians going in on a heckler. It can be really really funny and sometimes it can look a little uncomfortable, but it can be really 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 funny. The owner of Avanti Model and Talent says, "Hi, it's Jennifer." So she's watching you. Great, great, great. We're talking about confidence and being performance because being a comedian is almost like theater. We talked about having that intimate relationship with the people right in front of you. So, what do you do if you feel the energy of the audience and it doesn't where you desire it to be? Like maybe your jokes aren't landing, but you've got 30 more minutes to go. It's not like you're doing a 5 minute and get out of there.
You can't do a 90-minute set with 90 minutes worth of material.
Break that down for me. Okay.
Okay. My sets are usually 90 minutes. I'm booked for an hour, hour and a half. And then honestly, I get booked more for an hour than an hour and a half. So let's say the 90-minute thing, just for argument's sake. If I started talking and discussed all my material, I could probably talk for about 4.5, 5 hours. So if I'm doing a 90-minute set and I got 30 minutes left and I chose to do the New Orleans story, but in the middle of it, it starts to fall short, or you losing that energy, change the subject. Go somewhere else. Talk about something else. If you were talking about something in the beginning of the show that was real high and real good, don't use it all. If you got to go back to it, go back to something like it, or and that is experience. I mean, I can't teach you that one out. You just got to get beat up for it.
Because we see that a lot where a comedian will double back to something. Lisette, I don't know if we're gonna do this, but Lisette said, "Could you tell us a mama joke?" Okay. But that brings up something I want to ask you because I know comedians. I've heard interviews where comedians talk about this. Eddie Murphy talked about it, where you run into people or you're at a function, you're like, "Hey, be funny. Tell us a joke." He's like, "I'm not a circus monkey."
What? Who asked that question?
Lisette. She is a talent of ours, and she's also a singer. And she said, "Could you tell us a mama joke?" That is hilarious.
My favorite thing is when someone does me that and it doesn't work for you, Lisette, because you're a singer. I usually ask them to do what they do for a living. Hey, tell me a joke right after you fix my car. And it's true. I mean, think about you as a singer. You're in Walmart, you meet somebody, you tell them you're a singer, and they say, sing something for me. No. Because just because I'm a comedian does not mean I tell one-line jokes.
Right. You're not a one line.
I tell stories.
I,
So
I like to meet the comedians who tell stories versus, well, they all have their place, right?
mhm.
So let's trickle this back to, models and actors, especially. And we've talked about building your confidence in the beginning. And you talked about bombing and failing and persevering and getting through that, right? We talked about COVID, how that was a setback for about 3 years, and you kind of persevered and pushed through that. Question from Nathan Camillo. Have you ever, or do you have any desire to be on a TV show? Have you been? Oh, I'm sorry, I read that wrong. Have you been on a TV show, or do you have a desire to be in a TV show or movie?
I've done very small things, background, just that happened to be the guy over there, but no career in TV. Would I like to? The only way I think I could be successful as an actor is like I said at the beginning of this, it is very difficult for me to say what you want me to say.
Mm-hmm.
I probably would have to approach it like a John Witherspoon, even though it's hard enough to go and be their puppet, let alone be in control of it. John Witherspoon, the way he acts, he's given a situation and he just makes it up as he goes. That is probably the only way I could really do it and really be me, but nobody's going to allow me to do that. You know what I mean? I'm not that strong in this as like Witherspoon was.
Yeah, and I think you have to build up a cachet to be able to do that too, right?
Mhm.
We've seen actors and people before that says, "Oh, I'll just improv it or wing it," and it's like, no, you don't want to improv somebody's script. They worked hard to write that script,
Mhm.
but when you've built up that kind of cachet, you're able to do those sort of things like that. But
So my biggest thing on TV is mostly in this region, and it's more people invite me in as a guest to talk about something in particular. Not always comedy, just in general. And I've done a few sit-ins for other hosts.
it, you worked and you talked about something about working on your accent, which is something we talk about with actors all the time. We've seen British actors who are able to have a I don't want to say regular, but an American accent where they sound like they're from America, and then you'll
Mhm.
see them in another film and you can hear their English accent. How was it? Was that hard for you to train yourself to talk in those different types of tones?
I haven't really trained myself to do it at all. I've just learned to speak a little slower.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's right. Because you said
Believe
that.
it or not, being slower changes me to the, as you put it, American accent, even though South Louisiana is America. I'm sorry. I'm sorry we're special to you guys, but it is what it is.
I was saying that for the English
I
people.
said
Don't do it. Don't.
say you people.
Look here, Cajun. So,
No, 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 no. Not gonna go there. I am not Cajun, John. I am Creole.
right, right, right. I get them mixed up sometimes because they both start with C. Okay, so one cooks better than the other, and I can't remember which one it is.
It would be us.
Now, the Cajun would say the opposite.
No, it's different things. Their seafood, we're everything else.
You did a series called Jerrod from the Tractor, which was very hilarious.
Mhm.
It did really good on Facebook and YouTube, and you talked about or vented about certain things from the tractor. And I remember one of the things you talked about that was funny was when you're asking your wife what does she want to eat, and she says, "What do you want to eat?" And then you guys had that little back and forth. Can you remind us of that story? Because that was a pretty good story.
Well, yeah, it starts from you can have a poll in your audience to describe spaghetti.
Hmm.
If you're someone cooks for you and you go home and you ask what are you having for dinner and they tell you spaghetti, it is long squirrely noodles and meat sauce. My wife thinks all pasta and meat sauce is spaghetti.
Oh no! So whether it's fettuccine,
Spaghetti.
whether
If it's meat
it's
sauce, it's spaghetti. So
angel hair.
macaroni and meat sauce is spaghetti. No, that is hamburger helper. I've been married for 28 years and we still cannot agree with that. So whenever we go to a restaurant, hey, what would you like to eat? I don't know, you pick. So would you like to go to Chili's? No, I don't want that. Okay, would you like to go to El Paso Mexican restaurant? No, I don't want that. So we're always going through the desire to eat. And if I decide on my own what she wants to eat, now she's mad. She didn't want that.
Hmm. Hey, I remember you said the way to solve that problem is go to a restaurant if they make you order for, make up something.
Order yourself. Matter of fact, we went to a restaurant one time and I ordered a starfish and coffee, maple syrup and jam, butterscotch clouds with a side order of ham. Thank you, Prince.
She did not like that.
No, she never made me order for her again.
So it worked. It's funny that Lisette is commenting because Lisette has some of the worst horror stories about being at a. I don't think Lisette has been to a restaurant that has served her properly since she's been going to
So
restaurants.
Lisette does not order a number three. She wants a number three minus this, add that, get the side from the two, and take a piece of four and put on it, right?
Yes, and her poor husband Clarence has to deal with all of that. Um, but that's some good advice. Hey, just order something that they don't want, and then they can.
That ends it. Lisette will go to dinner, I'll order you liver cheese and
Oh,
spam.
liver
You'll
cheese.
never ask me to order for you again.
What event? What's your most fondest? I almost said concert. Your most fondest special, or no? Let me rephrase that. What's been your favorite place to perform, and do you have a performance that always sticks out to your mind as like, dang, that was one of my best performances?
Got two. And excuse me, one of them's kind of disgusting, but it's pretty funny.
Let's say they never get my order right. No, that means when
You're
someone's
ordering wrong.
right, there you go. When they don't get your order right, that means your order is always too complicated.
I promise you, if you walk in, open a menu, and tell them the number next to the meal,
It'll be right.
be fine.
But when you go in there and you say, what comes on the sausage, egg, and cheese sandwich? Exactly everything you just said. So don't say, can I have a sausage, egg, and cheese sandwich without the sausage, with the different colored cheese? And like, when you start mixing up stuff, then they mess up your order. That's all on you. Right? That's all on you. All
Yeah,
right.
let's
She's
see.
she's defending herself, but we're gonna ignore her.
Lisette, do what you got to do, but I'm a simpleton. Order number two, baby. You'll be fine.
All right. So go ahead. Continue.
Uh, like I said, it's probably a disgusting story, especially after we finish eating. But I was at a
As long as you don't get me kicked off YouTube.
no. I'm not gonna get you kicked off. I was on stage telling a story, and I was probably 5 minutes from wrapping up, and it was at a building, and my audience is a little older than target audience. I usually it's 40 and over is pretty much my audience, and I was telling a story. And this lady, I'd say in her mid to late 50s, and at the time this had to be about 10 years ago. I was telling a story, and she was walking up to the stage, and she was laughing hysterically. And when she got to the stage, and she had been drinking, of course, she just threw up on the stage, laughing so hard. And once she did it, all I did was stop right where I was and good night, everybody. And everybody like just erupted into laughing, and I left. So I got pretty one of the best laughs of the night over something I had nothing to do with.
You didn't even have anything to do with that.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I told her a joke that made her laugh enough to.
You sure she wasn't laughing at you? No, let me not get you started because you'll.
Does not matter.
I,
Um,
go ahead.
I think memorable is just some of the people I've been able to share stage with. I think more than myself. I'm kind of humble about it. I get to be on
Well,
stage.
you shared the stage with a lot of big acts that probably half of the people, most of the people watching, may
Don't
not
know.
know. I mean, you've opened for Clarence Carter. You've opened for Aunt Esther, which was, I forgot her real name.
LaWanda Page.
Yeah, Wanda Page. You've opened for ZZ Top. You've opened for all types of blues artists, rock artists, R&B artists. It's like if you name anybody from the 70s, some 80s, you've opened for them. So that's
Mhm.
pretty cool, especially early on in your career.
Yeah. Being 19 opening for Cameo and Confunction was pretty awesome.
Yeah, that because first of all, I always used to think that was weird when I went to a music concert and they opened with a comedian.
Mhm.
But I get it once I
Mhm.
saw it. I mean, I get it. That's just like a different type of vibe, and you're getting them ready. Openers are important. Um,
Well, that also taught me to be doing the music era, opening for these acts. Okay, the show's supposed to start at 7. Jerrod, you're on. When you're walking on stage, there's always a stage guys that'll whisper at you something like, "Oh, Morris isn't here yet, so could you go for about 30, 40 minutes?" And
wow,
you're walking down
you're
there,
supposed to
and
do
like,
10 minutes.
thank you.
Yeah,
Now
yeah,
I was prepared to do 10, 15 minutes. So now I got to make this last 45 minutes. So I always have to keep in my pockets a whole lot of stuff.
right.
Or, hey, dude, we running late. They ready to go. Just do 5 minutes and get off.
Well, let's talk about that for a second because I know, again, we're talking to you as a comedian, and there are things that we've talked about that translate to people who are acting and modeling. And one of the things that I know a lot of people watching or that I've coached have a hard time dealing with is when everything doesn't go right or something doesn't go right or somebody's late or any of those things. You've had to deal with professionally. Maybe you show up to a place and it's not the place you're supposed to be. Somebody got their wires crossed, or the pay wasn't you weren't given the pay that you were promised, or things like that. How do you handle these situations and keep your professionalism when you feel that you've been wronged?
Um, Now under the contracting system, usually you're paid. You're paid once you get to this level, and you have to get there. Right now, if I'm booked, I'm given a 50% deposit on the actual booking. So before I even sign it in, I've gotten a deposit, and usually the other half soon as I get to the venue. Now, once I get to the venue and they give me the other half, I can't leave the venue. But so before the crowd even comes through the door, I'm usually paid. Now, first starting out, before I was at that level, so to speak, yeah, that's happened a lot. And again, 6'1", 295 pounds. I get away with a lot of stuff most people wouldn't when it comes to that, but yeah, I've gotten paid nothing before and been mad about it.
What about now? That's pay. What about when things are crossed and it's not the wrong venue? Somebody got the wrong dates, or just things that fall through. And I know that it can upset a lot. Like for instance, I give an example. I drove 78, 178 miles to do a gig, and 15 miles from the gig, they told me the gig was canceled. I can't curse and scream on the thing. I just said, "Oh, thank you. Hope to get to work with you in the
You got
future."
you got to roll with the punches, and like I said, now it's a little different, but back then you just learn the names not to mess with. Like there was a couple of promoters in town that if they called to book me, no, because it's always BS when you mess with them. So rolling with the punches is it. It's gonna happen.
You
Things,
never let somebody else take you out of your professionalism, because then that can be a perception that's given to other people. That
yeah.
Jerrod's a difficult guy to work with. He's a hothead, and none of that's true, because they're never going to tell the side where they screwed everything up, right?
Yeah, I've had that. I've had a couple of promoters, like you said, talk about he's a diva or he's a problem to work with. You don't want to work with him. And then a couple times I've had the person book me anyway
Hmm.
and find out that no, man, you were fine. I mean, something must have went wrong. So I've a couple times I've been able to redeem it.
Hmm. Lissette says, "Make a joke out of it."
Joke out of it. Oh yeah, I'll talk about you if you make me mad. Definitely.
That's
You know
just,
what I
you know
mean?
what? Here's the thing for
I
comedians. Um, like people say, when stuff happens out there in the world, it's great because that's just giving me more material. Everybody thinks they're a comedian now. I know, like one of the things that just happened was the submarine issue that just happened, and from the day of the first report, like on TikTok and other places, everybody has memes and jokes and fun. And I'm like, what happened to the thing of too soon?
yeah. We used to have a 72-hour thing. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? You
too soon.
sometimes it's just too soon.
Yeah, like these
And
people.
everybody wants to do it first.
Yeah, it's like beating to the punchline. Um, and I just feel like sometimes that be too soon is lost. Well,
Mhm.
Jerod, I thank you for coming on and talking about um, your journey of being a comedian. I know people are like, well, I thought he was going to tell jokes. No, this isn't a stand-up comedy. This was a routine. Plus, if he starts telling jokes, he's going to start talking about me, and I don't want him to do that.
Definitely.
I do not want him to do that. But thank you for coming on. And I'm going to do a segment right now that we usually do. You can talk for a couple minutes or so. It's you, the guest, giving motivational tips or encouragement to people out there who are trying to get into the entertainment industry, about persevering, whatever kind of advice that you'd like to get with them about continuing on and pursuing their dreams. So I'll let you do that. Now, that's his PR person telling him the interview's over. All right. So I'll let you do that now. Go ahead.
The only thing I'm going to say is toughen up your skin. Stop being sensitive. You will never make it if you worry about what Fred thinks about you or what Susan thinks about you. Know who you are, do what you want to do, and fight through it. Yes, I have had people talk about me, oh, you don't, this is not right, that's not right, you can't do this. Hey, They don't like you in place A, try place B. Everything, you have to be unique, you have to be your own certain, but you can't be sensitive. The best people around you is like the people you know. If one of your friends, if you want to be a comedian, if your friend says not funny, listen to them. It might not be funny. Be able to accept criticism and be able to work on it. And that's it. Just work hard and understand that not everything's going to work first shot.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. You guys can check him out on www.jerrodguillory.com. You can also find him on YouTube, Instagram by using his name. He's got some funny series, Jerrod from the Tractor. You can find Jerrod from the Tractor series on Keone Productions on YouTube. Very funny guy. Look out for him. Check his website for future show days. And if you aspire to be in entertainment, watch this back again and listen to some of the advice that was given. Everybody, enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you. See you later.
You're welcome.